Alright, so I thought it would be pretty cool if I would document the creation history of my game via both video and text. So I already have my blog, and these are going to be my videos. Now in these videos, I'm going to be focusing on just progress, just blunt, straight, direct progress. Patch notes, updates, changes, stuff like that. This is not a super descriptive series. This is not where I'm going to be pouring my heart out about the philosophies behind my game and all that junk. I'm going to keep that to my blog, because on my blog I can take my time, think everything out, write it out, and get it out of my system properly. Whereas on the videos, I can't really do that. I kind of suck at talking, and I really don't like to script things. So I have to talk off the cuff, and it's really hard to talk off the cuff, if that's even the right word, about something so complex and long term here. So these videos are going to be very blunt, to the point. It's just going to be bam bam bam, nothing but updates. So without further ado, I'll show you the very first update. Alright, there you go. There's the very first update. I'm being kind of a cheeky bastard, but all games start like this, you know. I went from a blank map, and now I have a player on my blank map. Very exciting. Nothing else going on. There's no world, there's no controls, nothing. I just thought I would be overly honest and show literally everything. So there we go. There's the very first super exciting progress update. Alright, I got a 3-for-1 update here. So now there is a world, as you can see. You're supposed to imagine this terrain is like gravel or pebbles, rocks. And even though those are the different terrain types here, they're all the same terrain. It's just I have a built-in randomizer. The way it works is I can feed my tiles how do I explain it? A series of images, and they will randomly pick those images based on a weight. So most of these images are these like big white dots, but some of them are the small white dots. But they're all the same exact terrain, they just look a bit different. Also, I can move around, as you can see, and the third update, we'll see in a second. There we go. I have a scrolling camera working. So this map is way, way bigger than the viewport can ever show on screen. No matter how big your monitor is, it's literally impossible. It is a massive, massive map. So I made a scrolling camera system. So essentially, I'm only seeing a small part of the world centered on the player. And as you can see, when I meet the map edges, it stops scrolling. But as I go away, it starts scrolling again. And if I go down, I'll eventually find the bottom of the world, and it stops scrolling once again. You'll see how that works better in a little bit once I have the minimap added. Look how big the world is, it just keeps going and going. There we go. So that's all for now. Alright, we're back. So for this update, I added field of vision and 2 new terrains. So now the player can only see a small distance around them. And there's 2 new terrains, both of which block vision. So first there's mountains, which you can't move through or see through. There's a mountain right there. And oh, there's trees. So trees block vision, but you can go through them, see? And when you're totally surrounded by them, you can't see anything. I'm not sure how I want to handle that. I've been thinking about it, and in this game the mechs are supposed to be pretty damn big. At least taller than a tree, you know. They're taller, even the smallest ones should be taller than a several-story tall building, so I'm not sure how to handle trees blocking vision. That seems kind of silly. I've been thinking about maybe adding different types of trees, so these might be really tall trees. Or there could be really short ones that don't block vision, I don't know. This is one of the troubles of dealing with a purely 2D, graphically simple environment. It's hard to portray stuff like that. You can't really do fine details in a way that easily makes sense. Which is why I've been working on learning how to make 3D games, because this game, it's an interesting challenge to make it in a roguelike environment, but I think the game might be genuinely better in full 3D. But that's gonna be a while, so for now I'll just build it in this form. It's a fun challenge trying to build something so complex in such a simple environment. And I say simple because I have no audio and no real video elements at all. Alright, this update's not really worth showing you, but until more interesting things happen, I think I'll document everything just to keep myself entertained. So all this brown stuff, that is supposed to represent a crater. And the reason there's a crater there is because when the player arrives, they're arriving via drop pod. The way they move around the galaxy is via a ship, and they come to a planet by being shot out of said ship. Okay, I didn't like how perfectly round the craters looked, so I applied some noise randomization to scuff it up a little bit, so now the craters are all messed up. So there's a crater, and if I randomize the map, there's another one. Oh, look at that, that's a bug. Even though I made a new map, the previous map's field of view vision's still there. That's interesting. I'll fix that eventually. Yeah, see, this is a whole new map. I guess I must not be updating the field of vision info for the new map. That's interesting. I'll fix that later. But yeah, every time you respawn on a new map, a new crater's built, and they're all a little bit different. I don't like how non-circular some of them are. Can I find an example of that? Yeah, it doesn't really make sense, you know, it's a crater, it should be relatively circular. So I'll work on the algorithm, but for now I'm happy with it. It's a bit more messy and chaotic looking. Alright, so unfortunately I have no willpower and I had to fix it, so now the blobs of a crater are a bit more circular in design. I'm doing that by applying a very, very, very minor Gaussian filter to them, which helps make the noise a lot more rounded out. So let's generate some more. There we go. So I'm pretty happy with that. It's a cool happy medium. They're vaguely round, but also a bit noisy and chaotic. I like it. Yep, all these seem good so far. Sometimes this happens. That's due to how the algorithm works for the smoothing, the noise filter. Or what's it called? The Gaussian filter, there we go. For some reason, Skype's Gaussian filter makes things really like hard-edged. I don't know why. So this is not a perfect solution, but I would say like 90% of the craters look pretty good. I'm happy with all of these so far. I've only seen 2 really bad examples. I haven't fixed up the messed up field of view, as you can tell. Yeah, see? I don't know why it's doing that. Alright, not a huge update. I just added a little bit of an interface element, so now there's a screen square and a play area square. Also, once again, I tweaked the crater. I really lowered the Gaussian filter way down, so it's way weaker now. But, I don't know, it's hard to tell any difference. Whatever, I'm pretty happy with how they look now. Yeah, good enough. I just made the Gaussian filter much weaker, so there's less of that weird square artifacting going on. But that's all. Just some minor, impossible to see tweaks and some interface mumbo jumbo. Alright, I was having trouble figuring out where to go next because pretty much every step's a massive step up complexity-wise. So I just added some more interface junk. So now I have a fully functional, what I'm calling a GPS minimap. So this minimap, see that square right there? That square represents the whole play area. So everything in that square is what you see in this square here. So if I go to the left, we'll see a hill. Yeah, see, there's the mountain. And if I go way down, if I go down this way, we'll encounter that mountain eventually. Yep, there she blows. And that circle within the square here, that's my vision radius, so watch, if I bring this mountain right into view, see, that's because I'm barely touching the mountain right there. And that's all I've added. So that represents the whole map. So that square, the big square, the whole mini-map, that represents the entire map. Everything on the map is shown there. Well, except for trees, I guess. I decided only to show critically important terrain, so basically stuff that blocks terrain. Which is why I'm only drawing the mountains on there as white obstacles. I tried it the other way with black mountains and white passable terrain, but it was hard to look at because it's so bright. So this way seems kind of counterintuitive, but it's better in my opinion. Oh, by the way, here's how the camera scrolling works, so watch. Right now, again, that's my player view area. That's where the camera is located. The camera is basically making a slice of this part of the map and only drawing what's in that area. So everything outside of that square, it's not being drawn. So any content right here does not exist right now. But what's cool is, watch this. When the viewport reaches the edge of the map, it'll start scrolling. See how the player starts going down, but the box remains still? I call that scrolling. That was the hardest part to implement of this stupid camera system. Alright, well, unfortunately life is cruel and I can't work on simple things forever, so I have now added enemies to the game. Let me go find one. They're on the mini-map too, as you can tell. Let's go bring this guy into view. There he is. So I added enemies to the game. They're spawned randomly, and that little red dot is where they're at. Don't even know if you can see that on the recording, but every circle has a red dot in it. And that red circle represents their vision radius. So I'm adding this content right now to prepare for adding combat, which I'm not looking forward to because the combat I want to add is insanely complex. So complex, I don't even know how I'm going to do it or what it looks like. But unfortunately, you have to start somewhere, and I decided I have to add simple, crappy combat first. I hate that rule of programming, but there's no way around it. Because you can't just jump in and do things super complex right away. Especially in this situation, because I don't exactly know what complex means. I want the combat to be sort of a... This is going to have a negative set of connotations to it, gameplay-wise, but I want combat to be kind of a mini-game where it's not as simple as selecting a target and shooting them. You have to do a lot of stuff. You have to detect them on radar, you have to lock your weapons, you have to manually zero or level your gun, whatever it's called. You have to reload your weapons, select what weapon you're firing, how far you're firing. Lots of busy work. Because, you know, it's a simulator. I'm not making it complex for the sake of it, I'm just like, the complexity is kind of the fun. So the enemies are just moving around randomly right now. They just choose a random direction and that's it. I just got them moving around as a preparation for adding AI. Right now their only AI is choosing a random direction, but that's working now, so adding actual AI will be much easier. So for the next update, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be adding selecting a target and attacking them. Again, nowhere as in-depth as I want, but you have to start somewhere, so that's what I'll do next. 90% chance in that. Alright, I'm not sure when or how I did it, but I messed up how the camera works, and now literally the entire map is being drawn, instead of just the stuff within the viewport. And when I say literally all of it, I mean even the tiles off screen are somehow being drawn and processed by the game. And since the map is 200 by 200, that's 40,000 tiles in total being drawn every single frame, so my game is very unhappy by that fact. Or rather, my computer is. But yeah, I would not recommend drawing 40,000 tiles every single frame. Not a good idea. Okay, so I have added a new targeting system, and in my opinion, it is simple but also advanced. So let me find a bunch of guys. I want a whole bunch of them on screen. Here we go, this is a good example. As you can see down here, I added a ton of them to the map for easier testing. But when I press F, it'll select one of them at random, and then when I press F again, it'll start scrolling through all available targets. See? And it doesn't mess up and select the same guy twice until you've gone through all of them. So it should go to 6 next. Well, you know, the green one. Yep, there we go. And now, if I hold it down, you can see it goes through all of them in the exact same pattern. So I've set up a nice targeting queue. I set it up this way because I hate how targeting works in most, if not literally all, roguelikes. It's not hard, it's just really tedious. So in a lot of them, you usually have to, say, press X to bring up your targeting reticule, and then you manually move that targeting reticule towards the target. Then you press enter to select them. It's just so much busy work. So that's why I made this sort of automatic system. You just press F once, or twice, or 3 times, and you can automatically scroll through all of them. There's a few more improvements I could make. So for example, I think targeting should be distance based. So instead of starting on him, it should start on him, and then next maybe go to whoever's closest. Let's see. It'll probably be him, then you, and you. Probably in that order, based on a tile distance. But I'm pretty happy with it. It's nowhere near as in-depth as I want for my actual long-term vision of combat, but it's a good starting point, I think. So what I'm going to add next is actual combat, because right now it's just targeting. The next thing I'm going to add is pressing spacebar to select, well not select, but to fire on who you have selected, and actually be able to attack targets and kill them. Alright, so while things are pretty simple to demonstrate, I'm going to show you a bug I discovered. Watch this. When I select a target and then I move away, he remains targeted even while not in the, field of vision anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and fix that. And I will show you my fix to make sure it works. This is my first time testing it. So let's select him. And what should happen is when he's not visible, it should automatically deselect him. Oh, there we go. Look at that. Perfect. Awesome. So I'll hit him again, walk away. There we go. I'll hit you. Well, select. There we go. Good. There's another bug I discovered, but I don't want to show you it because it causes the game to crash, but I'll fix that too. Okay, so I'm putting a temporary hold on combat. I got sick of that black and white terrain map, so I added a new map. This one is a terrain color map. I don't have a better name for it yet, so terrain color map's the placeholder name. But yeah, it's pretty obvious. Forests are green, the dark gray, or yes, dark gray, like charcoal gray, that's the mountains, and light gray is the pebbly gravel floor. There's also brown for the crater. It's basically using the exact same color as the in-game tile itself. That's all. I think I said it, but just in case I didn't, the other map is still there, I'm just not drawing it. I'm going to be adding several types of mini-map modes. So right now, the first mode you saw, that's like the pathing map. That shows you where you can and can't go. This one's a terrain map. This shows you everything in actual terrain color. I could also add, say, a heat map, or, I don't know, some sort of radar map. A height map, that'd be a good one. And there's probably a lot of other options I can't really think of right now. That's going to be one of the main elements of the game, switching through your different map types for tactical info. But that's all for now. Okay, so unfortunately I'm going on a bit of a tangent here. I have a tendency to do that when I'm coding. I start focusing on fun things instead of important things, but as you can probably tell, I added a heat map. Now the heat map is currently completely nonsensical. It doesn't really relate to anything. And really, considering how small the map is, it doesn't make it doesn't make sense for one part of the map to be so hot and nearby for that part to be so cold. It's just random noise. I'll have to work on the algorithm more later, but I'm pretty happy with it. I like how it looks. It was actually really hard to make it look that way. I had to apply some filters to give that sort of like, I don't know what you call this right here, that sort of like slopey step look to it. Yeah. Otherwise, it would just be one really smooth pixel-based transition, but I prefer this way where there's like very clear different temperature ranges. Okay, so I'm being a good boy and adding proper things again. I have added rudimentary form of combat. There we go, I'll target this guy, and when I press space it does 30 damage. Unfortunately, there's no way to see that. I haven't added a combat log or any sort of visible health bars. But I know that they have 100 health, so 30, then another 30, And one more should kill him. There we go. So 4 attacks will kill him. So I'll target you. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I can kill bad guys. And that's pretty much it. I think I'll add some sort of interface stuff next, like show their health bar or a combat log, something. Let's mark those guys, yep. And they vanished from the minimap properly as well, so that's good. Okay, so I've added the very first piece of equipment ever, and it is a radar system, so let me go get near some AI. So we'll go up here. Alright, so see how there's a bunch of AI within the viewport? That means they're all like right along here, but you can't see them. Well, when I turn the radar on by pressing this nasty looking little button, and then passing a turn so the screen updates, you now see these question marks. Well, those are not exactly on the AI. It is a representation of the general area they're in. So as I press the pass turn button, you'll see it moves around, and it's doing that because the radar knows there's something there, but it's not super accurate. But what's cool, and it's really hard for me to show you this. Let me see if it'll happen. But basically what happens is the longer the radar has a contact within range, that the accuracy of the question mark will be honed in. So slowly but surely, I don't think it's happening. It's really hard to see. Yeah, they keep moving too much. Okay, let me go switch to real-time mode real quick. Alright, so I put the game in real-time mode. It's hard to explain what I mean by that, so just go with it. Alright. So, once again, there's a bunch of targets in the area, but I can't see any of them. When I flip the radar on, see there's question marks there, but watch. They're slowly covering less and less area. See, this one's almost honed in all the way. See, there we go. That was a much better representation of how it works. Alright, so another cool thing about the radar I added is it's actually shooting out little lines, or, you know, radar schmadar, sensor sweeps, what do you want to call them. So I'll bring this guy and get him contacted and dialed in. But, let's see. There's not really a mountain here, is there? Well, when I go down here behind these trees, I should lose contact with him because he's being hidden by the trees. So, there we go, see? My radar can no longer directly pinpoint where he's at, or even know he's there, because the tree line's covering him. Where's this guy at? I'll do the same to him, I'll just go into the trees all the way. Yeah, see? Now they're both gone. Radars can probably go through trees to some degree, so again, it's not perfectly accurate. I'm just messing around, to be honest. So even though I call this game a simulator, I'm not going to completely follow the rules in regards to realism, because I want to focus more on the fun gaming aspects of the simulator genre. So I don't care if my radar's not super perfect, but that's okay. I'm still going to research it better later, but for now I'm happy with this. I like how it works. There's some kinks to get out, but whatever. I don't know what I'm going to do next. I'll probably... Well, the whole reason I added the radar in the first place is I want to add indirect combat. So combat in this game is going to be very deadly. You don't want to say... Let me turn the radar off. You don't want to do this. Let me find somebody. Okay, so see this guy? You don't want to do what I'm doing right now where I'm walking towards him. You don't even want him within your field of vision. You want to be, like, where is he at? So see that guy's way down there? You want to be shooting at him from this far away, or as far as you can, so I'll go over here and fire. I mean, I can't, because I can't target him, he's not in field of vision. But I added the radar so you can fire on guys that you can't actually see. And you want to do that because you look down here, see that red circle? That's his field of vision. He can't see me right now, but I can vaguely tell where he's at. So I'd be able to fire on him and get sort of a surprise attack. Of course, eventually the AI will have radars too, so they can do the same thing to you. That's kind of the whole theme of this game, really. The combat is incredibly difficult, so you have to use and abuse all the tools I'm giving you. such as the radar and the mini-map and stuff like that. Unfortunately, I'm nowhere near close to where I want to be, though, in regards to, I don't want to say complexity, but I'll just say my end goal combat-wise. I want combat to be very strategic and tactical, meaning you have to do lots of, you know, small tactical maneuvers, but also lots of grand-scale long-term plans. Combat should be... Every encounter should only happen after lots and lots of planning and thinking, like setting up ambushes and stuff like that, or monitoring the map to see how certain units are patrolling it, so you can exploit flaws in their patrol routes and snipe them when they're alone, stuff like that. Really long-term, strategic and/or tactical mumbo-jumbo. But we're not there yet, unfortunately. But I'm getting there. I am getting there. Alright, we're back. So if you look down here, you'll notice that the red bubble is now white. It's still the same thing, I just changed the color. The white bubble still represents the AI's vision radius, detection area, whatever you want to call it. But now there's a bunch of red bubbles, as you can see. Now that red bubble, that represents the AI's radar radius. So if I go inside this bubble, even though we can't see each other, if I were to turn my radar on, just like I know where they're at, they would know where I'm at, because we're detecting each other via radar. Now I know that's not perfectly realistic, so for example, if my radar was off, realistically he should probably still be able to detect me because his radar is on, but I don't feel like adding that yet. So eventually, even if my radar is off, they will be able to detect me. I think it'll work like how it works in MechWarrior, where having your radar off doesn't guarantee like stealth or whatever, but it reduces your chance of being detected up to a certain range. So I'll basically give them 2 detection ranges, you know. They'll have their radar detection range, and then their, what would you call it? Their counter radar detection range. I think the idea in MechWarrior is that when you have a radar on, you're basically outputting a signal that can be tracked back to you. I'll add something like that later, but for now I'm just going to stick to this. I'll keep it simple. So this currently does nothing because the AI have no brains. They still just move around randomly. I think I'll work on that next. I'll move on making them actually be aggressive so they follow and attack me, instead of just moving around like a chicken with their head cut off all the time. Alright, so I've made a new addition to the mini-map thing down here. So if you look around the viewport box, I've added a new radar... I'm not sure what to call it. Radius circle, I guess, or your maximum radar range, distance. Basically, if something is not within that big circle, it will not appear on the mini-map. So as I move around, you can see stuff pop in and pop out. And that's pretty much it. It's currently working simply on distance. I think in the next one I'll make it properly use some sort of, you know, field of vision style sweep. So that way, if there's a guy right here, I won't be able to see him even if he's in range because the mountain's blocking him. In fact, I think I'll go do that right now before I forget, so I'll be back in a second. Alright, let's see if that works. Am I stuck in this? I'm almost stuck in there, that's interesting. I'll have to fix that. I'll have to do some sort of sanity check to make sure the player can't be stuck inside of a mountain when they spawn. But yeah, it should be doing proper field of vision checks for the huge radar range now. So, these contacts right here, when I go down here they should vanish. Yep, there we go. I like it. I'm having a lot of fun building this. I go right here, yep, they all vanish, then they'll pop back in. That's pretty damn cool, I like it. So I'll see you guys for the next update. Nothing too big, just a little baby steps. I'm still trying to figure out how to make the, I don't know, how to make my vision, basically. I have a gut feeling for what I want, but it's really hard to make that into something physical. Okay, we are back with a simple targeting system update. So previously when I would press F, it would highlight one enemy. Well, now when I press F, it highlights all of them. I also added a line that goes from you towards a target just to help make things even clearer. I'm not sure if I'll keep that line though, because it makes things look a little bit messy, especially when there's lots of enemies. Let me see if I can get more on screen. The game's chugging because I have 3,000 agents on the map right now. Not that bad. Sometimes it gets really bad though. Yeah, see, that's kind of hard to look at. The reason I added this is because sometimes I'll play a roguelike and the map is just so messy due to all the ASCII symbols that there might be an enemy right next to me and my brain just will not notice them. Maybe I'm rushing, maybe I've never seen that enemy before. Either way, since everything is just ASCII, sometimes I just plain old miss the target that threatens me. And there's nothing more annoying than being killed by something you didn't even know was there. So I'm rather happy with this system. I have to, I have to refine it a bit, but I like it. So now there is a gray line going to every potential target and a white line in a white box going to your selected target. All those numbers, you can ignore those. That's a work in progress accuracy thing. It's just based on a float distance right now. I'm trying to get more proper combat up and running. Yeah, here's a good messy example, by the way. I moved around a bit and found this clusterfuck of targets. Maybe I'll make those lines transparent or something, I don't know. Or maybe I'll put a box around all targets instead of using lines. I'll figure something better out. The line system, it's a good starting point, but this is like impossible to decipher. Okay, so I really didn't like how messy it looked in the previous update because the whole reason I added it was to make information easier to see, but ironically, I made it kind of harder in a way. A bit easier, but also a bit harder. So now, instead of a line going to every target, what happens is every single target gets a gray box, but your current target gets a circle and a line. I think that's a lot better. So now you can see all potential targets in your immediate area, but there's not a whole bunch of messiness being drawn. That accuracy, you know what? Just turn that accuracy display off. I shouldn't even have that on because I'm not really using it right now. Yeah, there's a better representation. There you go. I think it's a big improvement. So now you can't really miss any potential targets. Every single thing has a box on them. They stand out against the terrain. In fact, can I get one on some terrain? Yeah, see? Even when they're on like a pretty big terrain background, the box highlights them pretty well. I don't know why, but that previous video opened my eyes and made me realize that everything looked really messy and terrible, despite the whole point of it being the opposite, not make it look messy and terrible. Also, another thing I want to show you, by the way, is this sometimes happens. Look at that. That is happening on accident. I didn't program it that way. It's just when the bad guys line up in a nice line, the boxes, they basically automatically conjoin together very nicely and neatly. That is a accidental bonus, but I added accuracy back just because I'm kind of fiddling with it again, and now I'm only drawing accuracy on your current target just to cut down on the mess. The only problem I have with this is that it's kind of annoying doing this, going through every target, checking your accuracy. So I really need to have some sort of immediate display where your hit percentage is drawn to all of them. But I don't know how to do that without making a massive mess out of the screen.